The 15-0 thing is maybe more interesting than I thought initially. I don't know if I completely realized how rare a true undefeated season is. Like, I mean, Saban's only done it once at Alabama. For all the success that he has had at Alabama, I think he's only done it once.
But he's never been 15-0. He's been undefeated.
Oh,
the
he's
only
been
14.
14. Okay, yeah,
in
so
the
he's
modern football history is LSU and Clemson.
There's
I think
four
there was
teams total.
Yeah, like Yale and Harvard.
Duke or something?
Yeah, like Duke and Yale.
Like
did
in
it
the
back
50s.
Long time ago. But as far as like the modern day of college football, there's only two programs that have been 15-0. Now, Alabama did it at 14-0 in the BCS era, but at 15-0, playing the playoff game, an SEC championship, and then a national championship game after 12 regular season games. Clemson did it in 2018. LSU does it in 2019. And you're right. I mean, this is something that is historic in the sense of it's rarely been accomplished in this sport.
And maybe the best part about me, and this speaks to coaching, this speaks to the leadership from these players. I think this really speaks to, for all the talk of Nick Saban's process, I think Ed Orgeron's process deserves to be highlighted here because this team played their best in the biggest games. Like, as the stage got bigger, they got better. And I like reading a lot of kind of articles that slant into analytics, and I love Bill Connolly's S&P Plus ratings and when they preview things and them trying to kind of predict the future. LSU down the stretch outperformed the S&P predictions by over 20 points nearly against in the SEC championship, against Oklahoma, against A&M, against Clemson in the Natty. It's just like the computers, right? The data. When you try to take all the numbers and do your best and try to figure out how these two teams match up, you still couldn't account for just how good LSU had truly become, or Joe Burrow for that matter, by the end of this football season. There's been so many interesting little points that have been made surrounding this championship. How about Shea Dixon pointing this out? So Ed O becomes the sixth active FBS coach who has won a national championship. He joins Nick Saban, Les Miles, Dabo Swinney, Jimbo Fisher, Mac Brown. Just kind of interesting. Maybe this speaks to just the potential of the state, the potential of the area. But out of those six, three of those coaches won national championships here at LSU.
Wow.
Isn't that a little odd? Just speaks to kind of the eternal power of the Bayou if you can get it right. If you can get it right. I actually love Spencer Hall's Banner Society article, too, talking about LSU and how, he kind of used the Mongol horde analogy where they're always threatening, but sometimes they've kind of lacked the vision or the focus or the direction, and so you were all right. You're still good just because of the raw talent, but you weren't as good as you could be. But when you get it together, when you do have that focus and that leadership and the stars align, then, LSU can stand nearly unparalleled with anybody else. And you saw that this season. Another thing from the end of Shea's tweet, I mentioned the other 5 national championship coaches. Orgeron had wins over 3 of them in the past 2 months.
I don't know if there's any more critics out there about Orgeron and his head coaching resume and what he's accomplished up to this point, whether or not he deserves to be where he is. One of those is Dan Walken. We'll talk to him from USA Today coming up here at 8:15 this morning. But one of the things that gives me confidence about Orgeron and what he's accomplished up to this point and this offseason is his ability to put together a staff. And I think that's one of the things that has been a very refreshing part of his second go-round of being a head coach. Is he talks about it all the time, is that he recognized he needed to delegate. He also recognized that he needed to bring in people and have around him that he really trusts. That's why the Joe Brady story this morning, while, yeah, man, as an LSU football supporter, it's depressing. It sucks to hear that Joe Brady, the guy who is really the mastermind behind this LSU record-breaking offense of 2019, has decided to go back to the NFL, but in the same sense, you knew that was going to be the story at some point. You knew that he was just too talented to be reserved, to be static in one spot. So I think that he's
There's nothing surprising about him leaving.
At all. And I think even after the year in Baton Rouge, it's not as much surprising just because of how effective the offense was, man. It was so good. it was so powerful in the sense that think about the defensive coordinators that this offense went up against, and really for the most part, listening and reading some of the Clemson media after the game, the defense thinks that they did a pretty good job and they limited LSU to 600 yards.
It's kind of funny. They had the 2 3-and-outs, I think, to start the second half maybe, and then early on he stopped LSU a couple drives. I'm like, man, I don't remember the last time I saw LSU get shut down 2 drives in a row. So you were kind of hat-tipping Clemson, but it's just, the fact that Joey B still drops 42 on you and over 600 yards just puts it in perspective. How's this for perspective? Cody Worsham tweeting yesterday. The LSU football single-season record for receiving touchdowns was Dwayne Bowe, and he had 12. That's a great year. Jamar Chase had 20. Justin Jefferson had 18, and Terrace Marshall had 13. Wow. So you had your top 3 receivers break
it's wild.
a single-season record. I want to caution people against next year when the offense is not as just ludicrous and not as exorbitant. I think there's going to be a dangerous temptation to draw the one-to-one connection with, Joe Brady's gone. But you're not just losing Brady, right? I mean, you're losing Joey Burrow. You're losing
Burrow's the
who
one.
knows, like if Jefferson goes to the league, Dad Moss, like you're going to Elaire, like you're going to lose the key pieces. You're going to lose the go. So yes, the offense will not be as just wildly, ludicrously good next season, but it's not just going to be because of the departure of Joe Brady.
Without question. And I think the biggest piece that you lose, and look, this is a very obvious statement, I think when you say it out loud, is Burrow. I mean, when you lose that skill set, that guy that just goes into that preparation. I mean, LSU had a pro quarterback in 2019. They had a professional quarterback playing football for them in 2019. I mean, from his preparation, and we've said this to the way he dresses. I mean, from pulling his socks up every game. I mean, he doesn't show any skin on his legs because that's the way that the pros mandate you to do it. I mean, he is a guy that plays at a professional level, and to the sense that last year at this time, I had no idea who Joe Brady was. Hell, last year at this time, I didn't know who James Craig was, the offensive line coach who just orchestrated the Joe Moore Award for the national award that goes to the best offensive line. Yeah. I didn't know who Bill Bush was 2 years ago. I mean, these are guys that Orgeron has flipped over rocks, has relationships within the coaching industry, and has found the guys that not only bring in and give LSU the best chance to win, but it's guys that fit on the staff, and from a chemistry standpoint, they work together day in, day out. So from a standpoint of who's going to replace Joe Brady, at this point, there's names to kick around. I mean, yesterday at this time, I was hearing Joe Moorhead, but overnight it looks like he's finalizing a deal with Oregon. George Munoz is on staff. He's been down at Louisiana Lafayette for a decade, and if you watch any LSU football game in 2019, he's 2 steps behind Ed Orgeron, directly over his right shoulder, and Orgeron looks at him as if he's pretty much the game manager. He's a guy that he really trusts. Yeah, Munoz is a guy that has a ton of respect on staff. I popped into the LSU football office the week before the Texas A&M game, the Thursday before the Texas A&M game. Caleb Williams, the number 1 quarterback in the country for 2021, was in the building on campus. His on-site, the guy that was walking him around on-site in the building and giving him the tour was Munoz. They're not going to give that to a guy that they don't trust or has high respect within the staff. I mean, that's a number 1 quarterback in the country.
Yeah, no doubt.
2 years from now. The guy that's a top on LSU's board, Munoz, is the guy that's in the building showing him around. He's a name to watch. I don't know if he's the name that's going to be tabbed as the guy, but he's somebody that Orgeron trusts, I think, and works directly with. I think his name's on the list. But my point is that I trust Orgeron fully in this circumstance to find the guy that fits and gives LSU the best chance to win.
Oh, I know who. Mike Leach. You get Mike Leach? Take it from Mississippi State. Ruin Rivers' good time?